So, croeso cynnes I chi gyd, a very warm welcome to everybody who's watching this either today or on recording. Now, I normally would introduce my next guest, but I think she's going to introduce herself. So, I'm going to hand over to you. Tell us who you are.
Gwranda bawb, Sarah Hughes dwi i, o sgiliau creadigol a diwylliannol. Dwi'n gweithio fel pennaeth partneriaethau Cymru. I'm the head of partnerships in Wales and the nation's lead for creative and cultural skills.
So I have to say, although I am Welsh through and through, with relatives going back multiple generations, I'm really glad you did that bit because my Welsh tongue would have got into a knot on that, or my English tongue. So a very warm welcome today, Sarah. I'm delighted you've been able to share some time with us today. And the whole point of this is, you know, we're living in extraordinary times. We can't get members together in the way that we used to. And maybe we'll just carry on doing this afterwards because we know that it's a time efficient, effective way of getting people together, although there isn't quite the same, preferably not at the moment, pressing of the flesh that used to happen. So this is about helping to build a digital community within CDI Cymru Wales and to enable members to get to know other members and the huge variety of work that's done across the career development sector. So you've mentioned creative and cultural skills. Could you give us a little bit of an insight as to what you do for those people who look at this and going, I know I've got a vague idea, but I want to check what it is. So over to you. Tell us what it's about.
Of course, Creative and Cultural Skills is a UK-wide independent charity, and we work towards a fair and skilled cultural sector by supporting skills, education and employment best practice, and that can be through a number of different ways, so through resources, through training, through sector support, events and research.
Fantastic. So what's slightly different about this conversation today is you're all representing an organisational member rather than an individual member.
Yeah.
And so today we're going to do a little bit of a play around how, because obviously I've known you for quite a while, I'll better declare that now. We worked together for years, probably more than we want to count. Yeah, that's the one.
A while ago.
Yeah, I know. So I know quite a lot about your background, and I think that's really interesting, the background of who you are and what you're fascinated by and how that's translated through into the work that you do. So let's start with a little bit of an explanation about what it is you're doing currently at Creative and Cultural Skills. What's all that about in terms of moving things forward, given the context we've got in? I'm sure that's not the easiest thing in the world either at the moment.
Well, at this point, the main piece of work that we have going on is around creative careers. And I've been working with a colleague in Wales on the Creative Careers Programme Cymru, which is about unveiling the hidden roles which exist in the creative and cultural sector. So those who are behind the camera, backstage, behind the administration, the marketing side, rather than those directors, performers, and singers that we sort of see as the creative industries. It's who goes into supporting that work. So people in the credits at the end of a film, for example, those who are backstage when you go into a theatre, the people who put the gallery exhibitions together and curate it all rather than the individual artists. So it's a very interesting piece of work, and it's gone slightly not quite as we imagined it would this year, because we'd hoped to be able to go and work with schools face to face, but we have put on a digital programme where we have a number of talking head videos with industry practitioners, which have been created for careers advisors, for schools, for young people to access themselves. So those will be available this week, and if you're watching after this week, which is the 23rd to 27th of November, then they will be available. In future for anyone to use.
Fantastic. And you've already been a guest on with me on a webinar not that long ago, talking about the actual size of the industry. And I think one of my big takeaways from that is, if somebody said to me, "Have you ever worked in the creative sector?" I'd have gone, "No. But I was a publisher of a magazine which firmly sits in the creative sector." And I came off that call going, goodness me, I thought I understood some of this stuff, but clearly, you know, we're all learning about things. Yeah. So I happen to know that if we cut you in half, metaphorically, we would see creative and cultural going through you like a stick of rock. And that passion that you've got for the arts is clear as well. Where's that come from originally?
I've always been interested in the arts, particularly around performance. I had some fantastic teachers in school who really inspired me and encouraged me. And I was very fortunate at the age of 18 to be able to audition for the National Youth Theatre and to be successful in gaining a place in that. And I spent 3 weeks in London engaging with just the most incredible practitioners who gave wonderful workshops in all different aspects of stage and performance. We learned all about hip hop dance for stage, which I wasn't very good at, stage fighting, how you choreograph a stage fight, how you get into character, how you devise work. And it was a wonderful environment to be immersed with industry practitioners and also with your peers who are all around you creating. And it was a really, really enjoyable experience for me. And then I went on to study Spanish and drama at university, which I loved. I loved looking at the text. I loved looking at how people were represented in the theatre. I loved the connection between my 2 areas of my degree, Spanish and drama. I loved looking at Garcia Lorca's work and the women, the female characters that he had in his pieces. And then when I did a year in Spain as part of my degree, and I sort of made my own little Garcia Lorca trail and followed around to look at these places that he talked about in his work. So I was very, very passionate about it, really, really enjoyed.
So that's that sense of place, isn't it? And when we're in places, we can either feel that we're in the right place or in a place that is not so comfortable. Now, what happened with that drama trail? Because I know you haven't left that behind you, and that whole sense of performance. So how's that been continued through?
I did quite a bit of stage performance and professional stage performance. Haven't done it quite a while, I must admit, but I do also sing, and that's given me quite a nice insight to the sector, to the marketing side, the finance side, maintenance of equipment. So it's been really interesting to try and keep that going alongside my day job, because it does give me a real insight into the world of professional performance.
And that's really valuable, isn't it? And I know as career practitioners, for us, we have to keep a hand in with clients to be contemporary and to be up to date, as well as if some of us might be in more strategic roles, being able to relate strategy to practice very effectively. Interested just to understand a little bit more about how you go from youth theatre, a degree in Spanish and drama, and then end up in creative and cultural skills. Now, I know there's a chunk there. So what was that about, and how does that connect up with what you do now?
When I left my degree, when I graduated, I got a job in the university where I'd studied, working in the language and learning department with international students, those who'd come to Wales to learn English. And it was a really fantastic summer, and it developed my skills in coordinating events and a little bit of marketing as well. And from that, I was able to apply for an events and marketing role in the university, and I became quite interested in skills, and following a few years was able to apply for a role that was looking at the connection between continuing professional development, the industry and education, so how they all connect together. And I did that across a few different sectors, including creative, but really that's where I wanted to be. So a role came up within creative and cultural skills as the Wales manager at that time, and I jumped at it and I thought, I'll just take a bit of a risk, I'll go for this job and see, am I right for it? And 8.5 years later, I'm still here.
So I don't think that's a question we need to keep asking, is it? Am I right? Was I right for it? I think it's absolutely clear. Yes, it was right for you. Maybe it was waiting for you too. There is this sense of planned happenstance and synchronicity, isn't there? The sort of planned happenstance being the career theory that says I'm ready and prepared when the opportunity comes, I'll leap at it. And synchronicity, occasionally we have to have a little bit of I don't know, a little bit of magic that helps us connect with something that's a pathway for us forward. Um, So you mentioned earlier about things not going quite to plan, and I think that's probably fair that everybody's going to say, I've got the badge that says things didn't quite go to plan this year. How has COVID affected the sector that you're clearly heavily involved in helping survive and develop? So what's the impact been?
The impact has been enormous. Venues aren't open for the most part, and in some cases won't plan to open until next year, until 2021. Museums are able to open, but with maybe limited capacity and very, very strict regulations for people who are coming onto site. So there will have to be a review of health and safety. Rehearsals have been very, very difficult, and there has been some guidance released by Welsh Government to follow, but singing and performance has proved quite difficult for a lot of people because of the situation and not being able to rehearse together as a group necessarily within the restrictions that we have. And certainly with groups that I sing in, it's a bit difficult for us to get together, and so we not really thinking about any potential performances until next year. So there seems to have been quite a pause, really. However, there's been quite a lot of new content created online. I noticed early on in the lockdown that there was a lot of opportunities for young people to engage in things online. So, for example, a puppeteer that I follow on Facebook did stories every afternoon for young people and was able to transfer his skills from performing to a group to doing storytelling to camera and doing live shows every day. So there's adaptation, but there is, there's still, I think, a way to go within the sector, certainly reopening and people getting back into it.
Yeah, it must be incredibly tough for them. I've noticed, I was reading something this morning about all the different types of creativity that's being used by the sector to bring the concept of a virtual Christmas party to life, whether that's a murder mystery or whether that's a VR headset based activity, or as a musician I know that does virtual sing-along parties where the text comes up, and in fact, shout out for CDI private practitioners who are watching this. You'll be able to see him and the CDI Christmas party for private practitioners on the 2nd of December, I think it is, and it's a Welshman called Steve Preston. So all huge amounts of adaptation, and it just shows, I think, the resilience of the human spirit and our ability to find creative solutions and test quickly and pivot, which is, one of the really key things for moving forward, isn't it? It's the resilience of the individual in an economy that is not only testing now, but is likely to be that way for the next 3 to 8, maybe 10 years, if you take the comments of Rishi Sunak into consideration from the weekend. So I know that you're also involved, not just in creative and cultural skills, but also in the Arts Award, which is at an even earlier stage of helping people develop their creativity and so forth. Do you want to tell us a little bit about that?
Arts Award is it's a unique set of qualifications from Trinity College London, which are for young people up to the age of 25, and it helps to recognise and give a qualification to young people who have followed an individual learning journey through the arts. There's a number of different levels in it. There's Discover, Explore, Bronze, Silver and Gold. And Arts Award, Trinity College London run training sessions for teachers, for people who run youth groups, for anyone who's working with young people in arts and cultural setting. And they can then work with young people and help them to communicate their learning and their development in an art skill and in arts leadership and communication, for them to then get a qualification at the end of the process. And I support Arts Award and Trinity College London with with the development of understanding what Arts Award is in Wales, and I very much enjoy it. It's a really lovely qualification. It's a nice thing to be able to talk to people about.
I think one of the interesting things about that is that it's not looking for rigorous academic learning in that sense, is it? It's meeting people where they are to help them get that qualification that they may not have been able to achieve. And I suspect you've probably got a lot of people will be using that in the context of young people who've sadly developed a not an employment education and training profile, for instance.
Well, it can be delivered in any setting where young people have got contact with arts and culture, and it's such a flexible framework that it can be delivered, you know, in any setting with any group of young people, but it's, you know, it is about that individual journey and their individual journey through the framework.
And that's that, at the end of it, that's what we're all here for, isn't it? It's helping that individual move forward in whatever sense. And what's been quite clear to me today, Sarah, yet again, is the absolute passion you have for the sector and the work you do. So that begs that question, doesn't it? What's next for you career-wise, do you think?
Oh, I must say I really enjoy what I do. I really feel passionate about the work that creative and cultural skills does, the fair access side of the work, the skill development work. I think I'm very keen to continue on this journey with creative and cultural skills, and to have an impact and support young people, new entrants to the sector who have not previously considered it as somewhere where they can learn and work. It's very important to me, that the access side.
Yeah, that sounds like a really clear passion and purpose combined there. What I wanted to pick up on as well, we talked a minute ago about helping the individual, and you've talked about wanting impact. And I know there's another piece of work that's coming up fairly shortly that we've been talking with you about in the run up to it. And that's the Careers Advisor Conference that's coming up to share a bit more about your passion and help people see all sorts of things about what goes on in creative and cultural skills as a sector. Do you want to share a little bit more about that for us?
Yes, of course. So on the 9th of December this year, I will be working or running a mini conference. We called it a conference, a mini conference online for careers advisors, where we will bring in industry practitioners to speak directly to careers advisors and say, this is who I am, this is what I do, this is how I got to the place that I'm at the moment, and to talk about the different sorts of roles that they encounter professionally, to just continue that objective of uncovering hidden roles, so that careers advisors are also able to ask them questions and ask them the questions that they are most asked by young people as well. So it's just a nice opportunity to bring the two together. So we're running the conference twice. It's going to be exactly the same, but it's just to be flexible so people can attend either in the morning or the afternoon, depending on what they have on that day. And we have got speakers from National Theatre Wales, from BBC Studios. We also have them from Heritage as well. So there's going to be some nice opportunities to hear about different roles in different areas of the creative and cultural sector.
And then, of course, that enables careers advisors to then help young people find their inspiration and develop it. And if this is the sector, they'll be well equipped to do that. Sarah, that gives impact, doesn't it? And that, I think, puts a smile back on your face when you start to think about impact of the work you do. And I think that's probably a lovely place to say thank you ever so much, Diolch yn fawr iawn, for all the time and generous sharing of your history and your passion today. And I'm sure that will have touched many people who are going, oh, actually, I better go and find out a bit more about creative and cultural skills, because it sounds like it's really exciting. I need to make sure my knowledge is up to date to support those clients. So a big thank you on behalf of the CDI Cymru Wales and our community. Thank you for being the face of creative and cultural skills today. And I'm sure you'd be happy to take any questions for anybody might want to email through to you. So if that's okay, we'll share your email details with people when this recording goes out. Sarah, a massive thank you. Diolch yn fawr iawn. Thank you.